Does drinking warm water help cure coronavirus? We've also seen people talking about sunbathing.
Yeah. So there have been so many things about temperature. And what's really interesting is that very often the ones which get the most traction are the myths which have a nugget of truth, which has been completely distorted. So actually, there has been a completely fake message going around, supposedly coming from UNICEF, saying drink hot drinks because it kills the virus and don't eat ice cream. Well, it's nonsense. It didn't come from UNICEF, and no, drinking warm water will not help cure the virus. But the nugget of truth in this is that if you've got coronavirus, you're likely to have a fever, you may well get dehydrated, and you will feel worse if you are dehydrated. So drinking plenty of non-alcoholic fluids will help replenish the fluid that you lost if you've got a fever, and will stop you feeling quite so headachy. There's also the fact that coronavirus can't survive above about 60 degrees centigrade. Now, the problem with that is that your body is designed to keep its internal temperature completely the same. It's called homeostasis, because if the entire of the inside of our bodies reached 60 degrees centigrade, we would be toast. I mean, completely toast long before we got there. So does it help just to drink warm water? Well, A, it would need to be above 60 degrees centigrade, and B, once the virus is inside your body, there is no way that water will reach all those bits, warm
Okay,
or otherwise.
good. All right.
If the virus can survive on some time on hard surfaces, can the same be said for dogs, like their wet noses or their coats?
So that's a really interesting one. Just in the last day, we've seen that there is some possibility that a cat can catch the virus, although interestingly, there is no evidence as yet that they can pass it on to humans. Theoretically, the virus can survive on hard surfaces for about 3 days, we think, on metal and glass, on cardboard for about 1 day. So yeah, theoretically, it could survive on hair, including on dog's hair. Really what that's saying is it's not very likely. It certainly won't survive in high quantities, because hair is a porous surface, and to an extent the virus will get absorbed onto it. It'll be harder to pass on, but do wash your hands after you pat the dog.
Is the coronavirus airborne? I've read on the internet a study that says it lingers in the air hours after an infected patient was there.
So it is droplet borne, and most of those droplets are going to land on the ground within 6 feet of where you are. There is a small amount of virus that will stay around, but the risk of that is tiny compared to the risk of somebody coughing straight onto you, sneezing straight onto you if they're within 6 feet of you, and the risk of that landing on a surface and you picking it up. So there is a risk, but it is much, much smaller than the risk of somebody being within 6 feet of you, or you not washing your hands and therefore transferring it from your hand to your eyes, your nose or your mouth.
Is it likely to catch it twice? Because I was ill in February, the first week of February, and then again in first week of March. Symptoms, as everyone's sort of suggesting that the NHS are saying that you follow, go by. And I guess is it likely that you can be infected twice, or is it just sort of another wave of symptoms that comes at a later date?
So we have not yet had it for long enough to know for certain. What we do know is that from tests that have been done on rhesus monkeys, which are very, very similar to humans, that you do develop immunity, you develop antibodies, and therefore it's highly likely that once you've had it once, you will be immune. What we don't know is how long you will be immune for. And what we've seen, and one of the scandals of this lack of testing, is that among those staff who are self-isolating because they've got the symptoms, only 15% of them have turned out to have coronavirus. And what that just reminds us is that if you've isolated once because you had, quote, symptoms of coronavirus, you cannot assume that you have had it unless you've been tested. If you get the same symptoms again, you have to isolate again.
Thank you, Charlene. You're cross about the testing, Sarah.
I'm very cross about the testing. I think, as I say, on the one hand, it's worried people to think if there isn't testing, does it mean if I get it, I'm more likely to die? No. But on the other hand, people could die if we don't have enough testing, and the NHS could be overwhelmed, which also means people could die.
And